Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I am Ryan Wormley, filling in for Joey P, having some technical issues today. He will be back soon enough, but I am stepping up, and joining me on today's show is Pat Fitzmaurice and Matthew Freedman. Freedman, how are you doing today? I'm starting with you because you're my boss.
I'm technically not your boss. I'm your boss's boss.
Okay.
Yeah, but I appreciate the deference. Happy birthday, by the way. True hero stuff. Stepping in for Joe, who let's be honest. It's a Friday. He probably just wanted the day off. Oh, hey guys, my computer isn't working. Let's have Ryan on his birthday, who probably went and got drunk the night before. Let's have him fill in for me.
Yeah, I wonder how many times he's used this laptop excuse. Fitz, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Ryan. Happy birthday. You don't look a day over 37. I hope you have a great celebration.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, guys. You know, it might sound like it's kind of, unfortunate to have to step in on my birthday, but there's nothing I'd rather do than talk a little fantasy football with the two of you on my big day. Before we jump into the show, I want to mention an awesome prize Fantasy Pros is giving away to the listeners right now. We've got a free signed Davante Adams jersey giveaway over at fantasypros.com/contest right now. All our listeners have to do to subscribe is go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros, subscribe there, take a screenshot, and submit it at fantasypros.com/contest before the end of the month to have a chance to win. I also need to mention my favorite tool Fantasy Pros offers this time of year, which is the Draft Assistant. With draft season now here, it's time to take advantage of our Draft Assistant with Sync. The Draft Assistant with Sync provides advice and pick suggestions for your live online drafts in real time. It works with all the most popular league sites like Yahoo, ESPN, Sleeper, CBS Sports, NFL.com, and more. Plus, it's got the same interface as the simulator, so it has that familiar look and is very easy to use. Only MVP and Hall of Fame level subscribers can access it, so please subscribe today if you haven't already, and check out our Draft Assistant with Sync at fantasypros.com/draftwizard. And since only premium subscribers can get the most out of our Draft Assistant, if you're not currently a subscriber, we're offering you an amazing deal that gets you premium for 6 months without paying us a dime. Check out that deal at fantasypros.com/offers. Fellas, let's jump into today's show. We're answering some pressing questions today. And just to let everybody know, when we reference expert consensus rankings and ADP throughout the show, you can find that information for yourself at fantasypros.com/rankings. The first question I have for you guys, we're starting with one of the worst teams in the league, but one of the most impressive players so far of preseason. Dameon Pierce had an impressive week, but with Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead listed as co-starters just last week, and the likelihood of this offense not being very effective, it is the Texans. Is Houston's backfield worth our time? Freedman, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this backfield is worth our time. League winners, guys who outperform relative to their ADPs, they often come from ambiguous backfields. Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead are minimally compensated veterans who respectively are injury diminished and older than some grandmothers. Probably, technically speaking. Pierce was efficient in college, 5.5 yards per carry. He's built like a lead back, 218 pounds. He's got a 3-down skill set. In his final collegiate season, he had 216 yards and 3 touchdowns receiving on relatively little usage, and he's a rookie. So he's got some of that upside of the unknown, and he's got some juice in his legs, unlike Mack and Burkhead. He's not expensive, and he's got the upside to break out later in the year. So yeah, I think you pay attention to this backfield, and by backfield, I just mean only Dameon Pierce.
I was going to say the question is phrased as, is Houston's backfield worth our time? But I think it's pretty much, is Dameon Pierce worth our time? Fitz, what do you think?
I think it kind of depends on the cost. And now that we're in the heart of draft season, like one big Dameon Pierce preseason showing or one big report could kind of spike that cost. And I would worry about that a little. I mean, we have to kind of shift now that we are in draft season and get maybe less about the player analysis and more about like figuring out how guys are actually going to fit into this game and help us win. And let me pay tribute to the late great Mike Tagliere and ask myself a series of questions that I will then answer. Like, would I feel good about starting Dameon Pierce in a flex spot in week 1? No, I would not. Would I feel more comfortable, especially in PPR or half point PPR, starting someone in the wide receiver 40 to 50 range in a flex spot? Probably. And what would it take in week 1 when the Texans play the Colts for Dameon Pierce to work his way into my starting lineup in week 2? I don't know, maybe 90 combined yards? I think I'd want to see at least 13, 14 touches. Is he going to get that? I don't know. So it's just kind of hard to see how he becomes, lineup ready for you right off the bat. And if he's not playing for you in the first 3 or 4 weeks, then all of a sudden he's a guy you consider cutting. So I don't want to take a guy like that in the 10th round, 9th round. If I can get him a little later, sure. But I don't know. I'm a little hesitant.
His ADP right now is RB44, 118th overall. Just quickly, I want to ask both of you, Freedman, you first. Where do you think that ADP is going to end up by the end of the preseason?
So one reason why I would be interested in drafting him now is because I do think by the end of the preseason, his ADP could be 2 to 3 rounds higher.
Fitz, what about you? Where do you think that's going to end up?
Yeah, that's fair. I think he's going to wind up with about an 8th round ADP. I said maybe not 9th or 10th. I think I'd be okay with him in the 10th and maybe even the late 9th. But if he gets up into the 7th or 8th, no thanks.
Let's move to question number 2. Last year, Rashad Penny was the RB1 from weeks 12 to 18. Fantasy playoff time, obviously. Yet he's ranked as the RB31 in our half-point PPR ECR. Heading into the new season, is 2022 the year Rashad Penny finally redeems himself and lives up to his first-round draft capital? It's hard to believe that he was a first-round pick. Feels like so long ago. And does Kenneth Walker's hernia issue make this path more possible? Fitz, I'll start with you this time.
So I think he could live up to it. Maybe the Walker injury paves the way, but there are some big caution flags here with the Seahawks. Man, they're not going to be very good, and we saw their preseason showing against the Bears at home, not very encouraging. This offense is not going to score a lot of touchdowns. So Penny was terrific. It all kind of depends. Like Pete Carroll is really unpredictable with his backs, and we saw Penny just even though he had high draft capital, just pretty much in dry dock for a long time behind Chris Carson. So maybe they do the same thing to Kenneth Walker and just let Penny roll with this. But man, I would feel a little bit of hesitation with an oft-injured player who has a very high pedigreed prospect right behind him.
Yeah, it's less for me do we want, with Kenneth Walker getting hurt, do we think that we're now going to see the full workload for Penny? It's just, can he hold up to the full workload? Because we've never seen him do it over the course of an entire season. He's just so injured all the time. Freedman, what do you think?
I think both of these guys are going to underwhelm in an offense that is really bad. This year, Betting Pros, my power ratings are going to be part of the projections for our sides and totals. And I have the Seahawks team rated as a bottom 3 franchise. I mean, they're just... they have the worst quarterback situation in the league with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. Neither guy is a noted receiver out of Walker and Penny. And if a back isn't getting receptions and if he's not scoring touchdowns and it's going to be hard to score in that offense, then he's probably not going to provide a lot of value. So both of these guys, I'm probably just hands off.
Starting our show with guys from the Texans and the Seahawks. I really hope we keep people listening through those juggernaut offenses. Actually, Freeman, which will you have ranked higher, the Texans or the Seahawks?
They are both bottom 3. So the Seahawks slightly ranked higher, but honestly, I just kind of want to flip them. I have them. I mean, they're basically tied. It's disgusting. And by the way, who put this outline together? Okay.
It wasn't me. I want that on the record that I did not put these questions in this order. Let's get out of the ugly offenses and move to our next question. Michael Thomas hasn't played since 2020. He hasn't been a top tier fantasy asset since 2019. He is expected to be healthy in week 1 as the wide receiver 1 for New Orleans. What are the percentage odds that he can reclaim his former status as a fantasy wide receiver 1 this year? And also, are the odds just as high that he flames out and finishes as a wide receiver 4 or even worse? 20 experts in our ECR, just for the record, have him ranked outside the top 36. Freeman, what are your expectations for Michael Thomas this year?
All right, I love how Joe created a question that forces me to think probabilistically, and then he just leaves the show. Great job, Joe. Top 12. I'll say a 15% chance for Michael Thomas. I wouldn't classify, finishing outside of the top 36 as flaming out, given where his ADP is right now. Someone who has his ADP could finish outside of the top 36, and it's not that was a horrible season. It's just he performed a little bit under expectation. I would put that around 35%. I think he has a relatively high floor given the usage that he will probably see, but I don't think he has the I don't think he has the volume ceiling that he used to have. And that was really the thing that drove his production previously. I don't think he's going to get that kind of volume given that Jameis is quarterback instead of Drew Brees, given that Sean Payton is no longer head coach, and then given that they actually have two pretty good wide receivers, or at least serviceable wide receivers around him, whereas that just wasn't the case earlier.
Yeah, this is going to be a largely different looking offense from the last time that he was actually healthy. His ADP right now, 66th overall, wide receiver 26. The wide receiver ahead of him is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Behind him is Allen Robinson, so that gives you a sense of where he is. Fitz, are you in or out on Michael Thomas this year?
Cautiously in if the price is right. I'll go a little higher than Freedman on the odds. He gets in a wide receiver 1 range, maybe 19.8%. How's that, Freedman? Is that
very precise?
Yeah,
thank you.
all right, thank you. And about the same odds that he would fall beyond, what was it, wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 into that range?
Yeah, flame out as a wide receiver 4-ish.
Yeah, I mean, Freedman mentioned there's more target competition. They're probably not going to throw as much as they were in his monster season of a few years ago. So, but at least the medicals are good. I had our in-house injury expert, Dr. Deepak Chona, on my show a couple of weeks ago, last week actually, and he said he thinks Michael Thomas is a value right now. People are fading him because of the foot concerns.
And the quarterback, not concerns because Jameis can support a fantasy relevant receiver, but do you think Thomas fits well with what Jameis likes to do at quarterback? Fits?
I don't know what they want Jameis to be. He was kind of a game manager early last year, and I was kind of anxious to see how that developed, and then Jameis got hurt. So I'm not really sure what they want him to do. I'm pretty sure they don't want him to be the guy he was in Tampa a few years ago, just flinging it downfield and throwing a lot of interceptions, a lot of deep downfield completions, but also a lot of turnovers. I don't think they want him to be that guy. So maybe it fits in well with, Michael Thomas is more of a ball control passing game.
Let's move to an offense that I don't think is bottom 3 in Freedman's rankings, but is still not very good, or at least has the potential to not be very good. Antonio Gibson was seen practicing with the third team and special teams earlier this week. He also fumbled in Washington's preseason opener. No surprise there. Got plenty of work with the backups. However, Brian Robinson scored a touchdown, looked great in his debut. Has Brian Robinson put himself in the driver's seat in the Washington backfield, or should we pump the brakes on him just a little bit, Freedman?
Driver's seat, no. I'm not going to say that. Gibson should be ranked higher, in my opinion, than Brian Robinson right now, but that doesn't mean I want to draft Gibson. I've been fading him for months, and Robinson is a real threat. He didn't produce early in his college career, but that makes sense. He was at Alabama, and he was playing behind Josh Jacobs and Damian Harris and Najee Harris. When he finally had the number 1 job to himself, he balled out last year, and he has a 3-down skill set. He's big enough to be a lead back in the NFL. And Antonio Gibson, as talented as he is and as productive as he was his first and second seasons in the league, he just isn't, I think, like the kind of like quote unquote natural back that Brian Robinson is. He's a converted wide receiver playing running back. Robinson, more of the natural runner who has a receiving skill set. I think if he doesn't take the job from Gibson, I think he severely eats into Gibson's workload. So Gibson, hands off, but I don't think Robinson just yet is in the driver's seat. I think it's more like he's in the passenger seat and he's starting to put his hands on the steering wheel.
I'm guessing we're all going to agree that at cost, we prefer Brian Robinson. He's going 160th overall, RB 54. Gibson is RB 19. One of the more popular fades this year among analysts. Fitz, do you agree?
I don't disagree, and I kind of want to drop the gloves here with Freedman on this one. First of all, I don't think maybe that's the ADP. I don't know if it's quite caught up because Gibson now is kind of routinely going outside the top 20 running backs, and I hope the price keeps falling. I hope we get these. I almost hope he fumbles again in week 2 of the preseason, just so that price can drop a little lower. We've got a dude who is as big and as fast as Jonathan Taylor and has scored double-digit touchdowns in his first 2 years in the league and has a pass-catching skill set as a former wide receiver. I mean, it stinks that the Commanders have not used him optimally, but this guy's kind of everything we should be looking for in a running back. And if he's getting at least 12 touches a game, and I think he will, maybe not much more than that, but it would be ridiculous for the Commanders to give him anything less than that. I'm in on him if he's getting at least 12 touches a game. Like, this guy is just too good to not have a role in this offense. And, like, he's already kind of balled out. Like, there have been some issues. Yeah, fumbles. He hasn't had a big enough role in the passing game. They're obsessed with J.D. McKissick for some reason. But, man, like, I want to bet on this guy. And I can get a cheaper bet on him, 7th round. I'm totally in.
Do you think that the Commanders are telling us in the way they're using him, third team, special teams, that they don't believe in him as much?
Maybe they are, but I mean, should we trust the Commanders to do things optimally? Like, that hasn't been the case. So
definitively no.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm hoping the light turns on and they realize that they should get this guy more involved in the passing game and like just give him a decent sized role. I'm not against Brian Robinson. I mean, I think he's a really good prospect. I am kind of against J.D. McKissick, who's, you know, not worth drafting anyway because Carson Wentz doesn't dump off to his backs. But you know, I'm very pro Gibson, where everyone else, I'm going to be the last guy on the bandwagon, I guess.
It does feel like when everybody has one consensus, it usually ends up going the other way. So I could see a scenario where all of a sudden Gibson is on like a lot of championship rosters because he's just better than people expected. Freedman, can you be convinced of that?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the talent. It has. I agree with everything Fitz said. It's nothing about the talent at all. He's played through injuries. He's got the pass catching skill set. Like I loved him when he was entering the league. Like, he's got everything you want except a head coach who knows how to use him optimally or who's willing to use him optimally. And I guess everything you want except for hands that can hold on to the football, which is like the number one way to get off of the field. And so I can see how he does well. I'm very skeptical. And like, I feel like Fitz is like, oh, I love him at this price. And then he drops another couple of rounds. I love him even more at this price. Like, Fitz is going to have no fingers left by the end of the season because of like the falling knives he's trying to catch.
Let's move back to the Saints, actually, with it appearing like Alvin Kamara is less likely to get suspended this season. Are we now back to drafting him in the first round like we typically have historically? His half-point PPR ECR has risen from RB12 to RB10 in the past week. If he isn't suspended at all, how high do you think he'll finish? Is running back 10 a correct ranking for him right now, or is that value still being suppressed, Freedman?
I have him exactly at RB10. I just updated my rankings this morning. I think that's about where he finishes if he's not suspended. And I don't think he's going to be suspended, but that ranking is taking into account the fact that he's likelier to have fewer touchdown opportunities than he had previously with Drew Brees running that offense. I think also likely to have fewer targets since Jameis Winston doesn't check the ball down as often. Kamara's 27, for a running back who has missed games the past 3 years and whose efficiency has declined over that time. He might be nearing an age cliff. I'm not saying like it's going to happen. He's going to fall off the age cliff. Like, I do have him ranked RB10, but like we would have last year had him ranked, like RB4, RB5, something like that. This year I'm being just a little more cautious. It has nothing to do with the suspension. I don't think he gets suspended this year. It has more to do with the offense and his role within that offense and the possibility of the age cliff.
In ADP, RB12, overall 19th, so usually in that second round range. Fitz, are you happy to take him there, or do you think that's a value right now?
I think that's about where he should be. And I agree with Freedman. I don't think he's going to get suspended. I think his initial court appearance isn't even until the very end of September, and that's not going to be any sort of sentencing or anything. So it's probably going to be put off. If there is discipline, it would probably be 2023. But as Freedman pointed out, he's been less efficient. He's been used in a much different way, more conventionally in the post-Drew Brees era. Like, I think I tweeted something last year about how he was basically like a sexier Mike Davis in the way he was being used. And like, that was it. Like, a lot of carries, but at a very low efficiency and, some usage in the passing game, but not like it used to be. I don't think we're going to see he had the 3 years with 81 catches in a row. Not going to see 81 catches this year. It's just, as Freedman pointed out, Brees check down a lot. Jameis doesn't check down all that much. And it's just not the sort of usage I'm really drawn to. He's still got the name, but maybe not the old game.
To put this in perspective, the last time that Kamara had 1,000 yards rushing was when he was in junior college. Like, this is just not someone who's going to get it done as your conventional runner And if he's getting fewer receptions than he has in previous years, then that means he just has a lower floor and I think lower ceiling than what we would have thought given his previous production.
Very quickly before we move off, because we've now talked about two Saints players, we've talked a lot about the difference between Drew Brees and Jameis Winston. Are we underrating the difference between Sean Payton and like him not being there? I mean, this is not just a new quarterback. This is potentially a very different looking offense all around. Fitz, are we not talking about that enough?
No, I don't. I think that's kind of an overrated thing. Pete Carmichael's been a kind of a constant with the Saints offense. So I think it's going to, they're going to adjust based on the different quarterback. I think that's really the big thing. But less about Peyton. Maybe without Peyton, we see a little bit less of Taysom Hill in key situations at the goal line playing quarterback, which I think we're all hoping for. But who knows? Yeah, I don't think that's that big a deal.
All right, let's move to our next pressing question. Broncos beat reporter Zach Stevens reported that Melvin Gordon said, quote, they want Vontae to be the guy after Javonte Williams got the first snaps at practice on Wednesday. Is this the year Javonte Williams finally commands the overwhelming majority of Denver's backfield touches en route to a top 12 finish? I know pretty much every fantasy analyst wants this to be the case. Will it be the case, Freedman?
Finally commands the overwhelming majority. He's been in the league 1 year. Like, we're acting as if he's a veteran who has toiled in the salt mines of special teams for a half decade. But I mean, he's got top 12 upside, but Melvin Gordon, I think, is too good of a player not to incorporate into the offense. It's not going to be nearly as even of a split as it was last year, but like Gordon is not just going to be standing on the sidelines for the entirety of the game. Like, he's a very good NFL player. It makes no sense to punish running backs by just giving them as many carries as they can handle when you have a pretty good one right there in Melvin Gordon. So I think high-end RB2 with peak performances, and maybe that puts him overall at the end of the season as a low-end RB1. But no, I don't think like a consistent week-to-week RB1. I don't think we see that out of Javonte Williams unless Melvin Gordon suffers an injury.
Yeah, as I was going through the question and I read, finally, I had the same thought as you, like it's only been 1 year, but I went full Anchorman and just had to read what was on the prompter. Fitz, are you super excited about Javonte? I know in our Dynasty startup, which is different than a redraft situation, obviously, you were very excited when I got Javonte in round 3 of that draft. Clearly the upside is there, but do you think we'll see it this year?
Yeah, like it depends. You in the question said overwhelming majority. Like it depends how you define that. Like I believe that you, Ryan, will put down. You'll drink an overwhelming majority of the birthday shots put in front of you tonight. But as far as the overwhelming majority of the carries and touches for the Broncos, I think it'll be like 60-40 this year instead of last year's 50-50. Like as Freedman said, Gordon is too good to just completely be shelved. So he's going to have a role. But 60% of the workload in a pretty good offense could be I think it's going to pay off. I mean, I'd rather have Javonte Williams than Alvin Kamara this year. No question about it. And as big and as fast as that dude is, as powerfully as he runs with his pass catching ability, like I think there's definitely potential for an RB1 finish. I mean, I've got him running back 9, so I'm kind of counting on it actually.
Do you think that like 55-45 or 60-40 split is something that we'll see right off the bat, or that's something that we'll gradually get to as the season goes on and we'll still start with Gordon sort of being equal or maybe even a little ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a little bit of a shift and that we'll see 60-40 or something close to it right off the bat.
Let's move to the next question. Fantasy Pros consensus projections has Trevor Lawrence pegged to throw 585 passes this season, 8th most among quarterbacks. Christian Kirk, the highest ranked Jacksonville receiver in our half PPR ECR, is only ranked at wide receiver 41. Marvin Jones, wide receiver 68. The offense will likely have 2 wide receivers see at least 100 targets, just like it did last year. Yet we're way down on Jacksonville's receivers. Are the fantasy values of Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones being accurately gauged, or is the industry undervaluing them by not properly factoring in this opportunity? Freedman?
I love how this is a pressing question. A question about Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones. This is pressing. This is the kind of thing that people tune into because they need to know. Christian Kirk, the guy at number 41 in ADP and ECR, Is this guy undervalued? I don't know. In the later rounds, people they pass up the relative certain small values for the sake of drafting upside players who have a better chance of drastically outperforming ADP, but who also have a worse chance of marginally outperforming ADP. So I doubt that Kirk or Jones will make drafters pay for bypassing them at their ADP. Right? He's number 41 in our ADP tool. He probably does a little bit better than that, but that doesn't mean that he's actually someone that you would be starting on a week-to-week basis. So I don't want him. I'm going to say something that's pretty disgusting right now. At their respective ADPs, I would rather have, actually, I don't know if I can say it. I would rather have Laquan Treadwell than Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones. Okay. But seriously, let me just make the small case. Let me derail the show more than I usually do and just make the small case for Laquan Treadwell instead of Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones. And by the way, I'm mainly joking, but maybe not. All right. In his 7 games as the fill-in number 3 receiver last year, he was actually the number 1 receiver on the team in that stretch, right? He beat out Marvin Jones. I think he has a shot to beat out Zay Jones and Laviska Shenault for the number 3 role in training camp. I think he has a chance to do that. We saw in the week 1 preseason game that he was out there running with the starters. And I'll just say, I'm not impressed with Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones as the guys at the top of the depth chart. You don't need to draft Treadwell, but I'm just highlighting him now as someone who maybe ends up doing more than you think he does. Maybe he actually becomes the number 1 receiver on this team because we've seen him do it for a 7-game stretch last year. Monitor throughout the season. Maybe you pick him up if he ends up breaking out.
First of all, I'm not sure we've mentioned Marvin Jones on any episodes of the podcast this whole offseason. I'm very sure we haven't mentioned Laquan Treadwell. And Pat, you'll notice there that Freedman was very ready to talk about Laquan Treadwell and derail the show, as he said, because he had those stats ready to go. So do you have a direction you want to take this in on your own too?
That was amazing. I mean, for a second, I thought Freedman wasn't going to bring up Laquan Treadwell in a discussion of Jaguars wide receivers, and then he comes up with this epic soliloquy. That was like the Prince guitar solo on Purple Rain of Laquan Treadwell rants, and I was just totally dazzled by it. So I'm still trying to get myself together to actually answer this question. I think all the wide receiver ADPs for the Jaguars are fair. Really, the only electric playmaker in this offense is Travis Etienne. He's the only one. So to me, I'm really high on him. Kind of not too interested in any of the Jags receivers.
As if I haven't talked about Laquan Treadwell enough on this podcast, I want to add one more note. He has liked tweets of mine, not once, but twice, when I've said something positive about him. Kind of funny.
I'll be sure to mention when promoting the show on Twitter that he gets a lot of run in today's episode, and maybe he'll like the Fantasy Pros tweet as well. Let's move on to our next question. Kyle Pitts was the only rookie tight end since Mike Ditka in 1961, so a long time ago, to have over 1,000 receiving yards in a season. He was also the only rookie in Falcons history to eclipse 1,000 receiving yards. He's ranked as tight end 3 in half PPR ECR based on his enormous potential, but is he being slightly overvalued with Marcus Mariota under center? George Kittle, Darren Waller, Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert all had more fantasy points per game than him last season, yet all are ranked behind him right now. Kittle and Schultz finished the season ahead of him as well. If you look at the top 6 tight ends in half PPR ECR, Pitts is the only one attached to a questionable quarterback right now. Is the industry expecting too much from him by ranking him ahead of guys like Kittle, Waller, and Schultz? Fitz?
No, not expecting too much of him. Throw out where he finished last year because he's going to score more touchdowns. No question. He is due for a big spike in that category. If I can get him anywhere from the mid-3rd round on, I'm doing that. And I'm not really a big early tight end guy, but the potential here is just so intoxicating with Pitts. This guy is a special cat. Probably the most athletic tight end in the league already. Sky is the limit, and I'm not even worried about the quarterback situation there. It's great that that the Falcons actually have so little at wide receiver. And yet Drake London is enough of a threat where hopefully we don't see as many situations like we did last year where Pitts is getting locked down by the opponent's top cornerback. I'd like to see him line up in line a little more, get him on those safeties and linebackers. So hopefully they'll be a little more creative with their usage of him this year. But man, like he could blow the lid off with like a 1,300 yard, 8 TD season this year. Would not surprise me. This guy is just so good.
Yeah, I really don't worry about what he did as a rookie because tight ends, almost more than any other position, take a year or two to adjust to the league usually. So the fact that he did have 1,000 receiving yards as a rookie in a not, elite offense or anything, I mean, that speaks volumes, I think, about the talent. Not that I'm going out on a limb and saying he's talented, but to me, that's much more impressive than it is a knock against him. Friedman, are you in on Pitts as tight end 3 right now?
Yeah, absolutely. He has limited target competition, and as you mentioned, it's reasonable to project a second-year progression from him. We typically see that at the position. I would say, I'm a little bit skeptical on the idea that Arthur Smith will actually use Kyle Pitts in a quote-unquote creative way. Imagination doesn't seem to be Arthur Smith's strong suit, but even with that said, I don't think it matters because the dude is just so dominant as an athlete and as a football player that I think he smashes expectations. And these other tight ends that you mentioned, right? They're veterans. Like, we have a very good sense of what we are going to get out of Kittle, Waller, Schultz, Goddard, Hawkinson, even. Like, we know what those guys are. All of them have a decent chance to outperform ADP, but none of them really has a chance just to lap the position and win the league for you. But Pitts actually does have that upside. He has the highest ceiling out of that group, but with the lack of target competition, he also has a really high floor.
Do you think there's any argument to be made to put him with Kelsey and Andrews, or it's 3 is the ceiling still, Fitz?
I think he's close to Andrews. Kelsey, to me, I can't get on board with Kelsey as a first-round pick, although a lot of people still are. But he's probably early second. I think Andrews should probably be like early third, and to me, Pitts like mid-third is perfect.
As of right now, they are alone in that upper tier. Friedman, do you agree with that too?
I mean, I think Pitts should definitely be number 3. Let me rephrase that. He should be in the top 3. But I wouldn't have him above Andrews. I wouldn't have him really all that close to Andrews, although I don't think he's like all that far off either. I think it's basically, for me, sort of like this tier of Kelsey and Andrews, and then like a half tier below them is Pitts, and then everyone else.
Let's stick with the Falcons. They have the second lowest ranked running back group in our half PPR expert consensus rankings. Cordarrelle Patterson currently is RB35, coming off a top 10 season where he had 52 catches, 1,166 total yards, and 11 touchdowns. Why are analysts generally so down on last year's RB9? He finished that high despite being a 30-year-old running back on the league's 4th worst offense in yards per game and 7th worst offense in points per game. Friedman, are we too low on Patterson?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are too low. I think analysts are low on him because he's coming off the best season of his career and he's old. Like if you just in a vacuum put those two things together, it almost always makes sense to fade that player. But if you look at the circumstances of his offense, they really don't have another back there who I believe is likely to overtake him. Damian Williams is I don't know. He's a guy who's flashed, like he's got a 3-down skill set, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy for a stretch long enough to prove that he can be a lead back. And then Tyler Algier, a rookie who, was good in college, but he's a 5th-round rookie who isn't really all that athletic. And in week 1 of the preseason, he was playing behind a lot of other running backs. So, I don't think it's fair to say that we should expect Algier to come into the season early and start producing. So, it looks like Patterson as the locked-in guy, and we saw how they used him in the preseason. He was in there. They gave him 1 carry, and then they put him on the sideline and put him in bubble wrap. He is their guy. So I think RB35, given his skill set and given the fact that even though he's older, he hasn't accumulated a ton of carries to this point in his career. So he's probably fresher than your typical 31-year-old. I'm not reaching for him, but I'm very happy to take him at ADP.
Yeah, the thing with it being his career year is it wasn't just a career year. It was a career year by a mile. It was such an outlier compared to the fantasy production we've seen from him previously. Fitz, are you buying in on him as a value right now?
I'm just kind of like drafting around him, basically. Like, I think the ADP is fair, but he is 30. He was really leaking oil down the stretch last season. Like, his efficiency was just in the tank in like his last 5 or 6 games. And yet they do seem intent, as Freedman mentioned, on rolling him out in basically the same type of role that he had last year. So, yes, like I think it's fair where his ADP is. I don't think he's really being overlooked, but I just kind of don't want him this year.
After week 9 last season, he had one game with 26.5 half-point PPR points, 2 other games with 11 and 12. None of his other games even had 8 half PPR points. So definitely fell off at the end of the season after that really surprising and fun start. Let's move to our next question. Christian McCaffrey currently has an ADP of 5th overall behind Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, and Derrick Henry. When healthy, he's arguably the best player in fantasy by a wide margin, given the 200-plus catch seasons under his belt and his 80-catch rookie season in 2017. Have fantasy managers taken the injury concerns too far with CMC or not far enough? I already know what Freedman's going to say, so let's start with Fitz.
So when I was in Canton, Ohio with Freedman last week, I did a draft in the Kings Classic. And for the snake draft, I drew the first choice in the Kentucky Derby style pick your draft position draw. And I chose the number 2 spot, knowing that it was probably going to be Christian McCaffrey there. So I do think that people are overplaying the risk a little bit. And I do think Jonathan Taylor should be number 1, because even though Christian McCaffrey has, if you throw out his first year, has averaged more fantasy points per game than Jonathan Taylor has in half-point PPR or full-point PPR. And I think that if they both play the same number of games, Christian McCaffrey is going to score more points. But I also think Jonathan Taylor is better physiologically built to withstand the punishment of an NFL season, and there is more injury risk with McCaffrey. So logical that he's number 2. But man, that is still a very attractive number 2 to me, because the ceiling is just so high. And, the floor is pretty high too. We know he's going to get used a lot. We know he's going to catch a ton of passes. He's definitely a guy who can carry fantasy teams on his shoulders. So I'm totally in on him as the number 2 overall.
Ian Hartitz on one of our shows earlier this week was making the case that we just simply, as an industry, aren't good at predicting injuries. Even when guys have had injuries in their past, we just don't know what's going to happen this year. Freeman, I know, is very in on Christian McCaffrey this year.
Yeah, I wish you wouldn't have said that nugget about Ian, because that's literally the thing I was going to say. Like, we are very bad at predicting injuries. And I will grant, Jonathan Taylor is probably less likely to sustain a serious injury this year than Christian McCaffrey. But like the extent of the difference between them, like probably not all that great. Let's say like Christian McCaffrey's maybe like 10% and Jonathan Taylor's maybe like, 5% or something like that. Like the difference doesn't feel all that great in comparison to, I would say, the elevated floor and also the elevated upside that Christian McCaffrey has relative to Jonathan Taylor. And like, I know that there's the old adage that you can't win your league in the first round or the first couple of rounds, but you can definitely lose it. I kind of disagree with that. Like, I think you can win your league in the first round, and you do that by drafting Christian McCaffrey, because if he stays healthy, like he's going to be the RB1. Like, I don't think there's much of a question about that. If he stays healthy, he is the RB1. And when we've seen him be the RB1 before, it has been like such drastic outperformance relative to the other guys because of the way he's used in the receiving game and at the goal line. Even in bad offenses, used enough at the goal line to get a ton of touchdowns that other guys just can't come close. And like, there's a big difference between finishing 3rd and 1st in your league in terms of how you're paid out. And so I think if you have the availability to get a real league-winning player like McCaffrey in the first round, you take it.
If you had the number 1 overall pick in 10 drafts this year, how many of them are you taking CMC first?
Great question. I would probably do 6 or 7 for Christian McCaffrey, and then the remainder, Jonathan Taylor.
Fitz, would you take Taylor every time, or would you sneak some CMC in there?
No, I'd probably reverse the order that Freedman had. Probably 7 JT and 3 CMC.
Shocker from the Wisconsin Badger that he would take Jonathan Taylor more often than CMC. Let's move to our next question. Devin Singletary was the RB2 in half PPR over last season's final 6 weeks and saw at least 54 snaps in all but one of those games. He also averaged nearly 20 fantasy points in his 2 playoff games. The coaching staff trusted him to be the guy down the stretch, and he answered the call, yet he's currently ranked as RB34. Is he the perfect 0 RB target, or do we really fear that James Cook will mix in enough to knock him out of the top 30, Fitz?
Not just Cook, but now they're letting Zach Moss back into the building too, which is really kind of alarming. He deserves to be outside the top 30 at running back. I do kind of have some intrigue in him as a 0 RB target if he slides far enough. But we got to remember this. It hasn't been a great setup for running backs with Josh Allen as the starter. In his 4 years as a starter, he has had 31 rushing touchdowns. All Bills running backs combined have had 28. And they brought in James Cook to be the passing down guy, so Singletary's not going to get those opportunities. And if he's the goal line back, great, but maybe he won't be if it's Zach Moss. So actually now I'm kind of talking myself out of him as a 0 RB target. So no, I think I'm out.
It's interesting the juxtaposition between Singletary and Gabriel Davis, who both had incredible ends to last season and looked great in the playoffs. Davis is one of the most popular, if not the single most popular breakout candidate at wide receiver right now, whereas Singletary hasn't gotten that same helium. Friedman, are you in or out on Singletary where he's going right now?
I like the juxtaposition to Gabriel Davis, and I think it does reflect back on Singletary. With Davis, the team cleared the decks, Emmanuel Sanders is gone. Cole Beasley is gone. They didn't flirt with really another wide receiver in free agency, unless you're counting Jamison Crowder, who plays a totally different position. They didn't look at anyone in the draft. That job is clearly Gabriel Davis's. And then it's been backed up by what you hear out of the beat reporters. Compare that to Singletary. The team drafted a 2nd-round running back after they tried to go after J.D. McKissick. They tried to go after Chase Edmonds. They looked at, almost every running back in the draft. This is them signaling, hey, we're not really all that high on this guy. So I am out. And as Fitz mentioned, it's not just James Cook. It's the Walking Dead corpse of Zach Moss coming back onto the field to steal those goal line touches. So he's vulnerable. Singletary's vulnerable on the goal line opportunities with Moss. He's vulnerable on the receiving opportunities with James Cook. That means he's just left having to be the guy who grinds out these between the tackle carries between the 20s. That sounds horrible.
Let's go quickly to our final 4 questions here. Jalen Waddle is currently ranked as the wide receiver 16 in our half PPR rankings. Mind you, he finished as the wide receiver 17 after playing in 16 games as the team's wide receiver 1 last year. Now Tyreek Hill is in town, and we still rank Waddle ahead of where he finished last year. Do we really think that Tua is going to get that much better in year 2 to support both wide receivers at the cost they're going at right now, Friedman?
Yeah, the answer is no. It's a hard no for me on this. And I would say it has less to do with Tua than it has to do with just the overall circumstances. So I've been vocal about fading Jalen Waddle at his ADP. He got a lot of volume last year, but he was rather inefficient with it in comparison to some of the other breakout rookie wide receivers we've seen in the past half decade. I think overall that offense is going to rely more on the running game than it did last year. So I think fewer overall targets for that offense, and then fewer targets in general, less target share going towards Jalen Waddle, because now you have Tyreek Hill and that offense stealing targets. So I think Jalen Waddle is kind of getting dinged twice, just fewer targets in the offense and then fewer targets overall coming towards him. So not very interested in Jalen Waddle, looking to fade him at his ADP.
Here's where I'm going to derail the show slightly and turn this into a bit of a Tua question. Do you think having Waddle and Tyreek now in that offense can make him much more of a fantasy viable quarterback?
Maybe. And I would say like fantasy viable in the sort of like high end QB2 Jimmy Garoppolo type of way, where he could be pretty efficient with his targets or with his passing opportunities, given the offense that he's in, and then given the playmakers who surround him. But I don't think he's going to be running enough, and I don't think he's going to be passing enough to be one of those high-end players who like routinely is in the top 6 at the position. That said, I do have a ticket 100 to 1 on Tua to win MVP. I bet that the week after the Super Bowl, the odds have dropped a little bit, but like I think I'm basically just like burning money on that one.
So you've had that for a while, a week after the Super Bowl. That is some real faith by you. On Tua Tagovailoa, let's move to another young quarterback. Trey Lance had 318 pass attempts in college, 71 last season. Can he get enough reps in preseason to truly be ready for the regular season, or will the learning curve hit him harder in his first year as a starter?
I'm very in on Trey Lance. He is the guy that I want the most out of all of the players at their ADP. I don't know if he's, the question, will he get enough reps? I don't know. I don't know, honestly, if that really even matters. He might be a little bit rough earlier in the year because he, didn't play his final season in college. He barely played last year, and there are only 3 preseason games. So maybe he will be a little bit rough to start the year, but I am so bullish on him for a number of reasons. I basically think I'm, going in the time machine here. I think he's Steve McNair. That's the type of player that I think he is, because he's got the strong arm. He's got the rushing ability, which gives him a really high fantasy floor, and I think an elevated floor in reality too. It gives him the ability to extend drives with his legs. Coming from a small school like Steve McNair, someone who had a lot of talent but was raw and so needed to sit on the bench for a little bit before becoming a starter in the NFL. But once he becomes a starter, he could just absolutely tear it up. And think about Jimmy Garoppolo. Not a great player, like not a bad quarterback, but not someone who elevates the offense around him. And Garoppolo looked, just in terms of expected points added, looked like a top 5 quarterback, for the past half decade when he was in Kyle Shanahan's system. If Shanahan can do that for Jimmy Garoppolo, like he can maybe do even more for Trey Lance, who has more overall talent. And then the playmakers within that offense, like we know that Shanahan can scheme up easy receptions for his pass catchers. If he can do that for Garoppolo, he can do that for Lance. And you got Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. Those guys are 3 of the best yards after the catch producers in the league. And so they could help juice Trey Lance's numbers. I am very in on Trey Lance at his ADP.
Let's go quickly to our final question here. With so many offseason trades and head coaching changes, which offense has the best chance to disappoint us as fantasy owners in 2022 after an offseason of building up the hype? Freedman, I'll start with you.
All right, I hate to say it, but the Vikings and the Raiders are the teams that stand out to me. And I'm betting the under on both of their win totals. And I wrote about why in a piece at Betting Pros. Over the past 3 years, the Vikings offense has been number 11 in EPA per play. Like they've actually been decent, and I'm sure they're going to have a more modern system under new head coach Kevin O'Connell. For instance, we should just expect them to use more 3 wide receivers. But there's no guarantee that the offense will actually be better. O'Connell has never had success outside of being the guy who stands next to Sean McVay when he calls plays. Like I don't know if osmotically that's enough for O'Connell to suck in the wisdom from McVay and then be able to infuse that into the Vikings offense. Like O'Connell could be good, but he could also struggle. Like a lot of first-year coaches struggle, and I think a lot of the Vikings are priced aggressively. So the Vikings stand out to me, and then also the Raiders. They have the 3rd toughest strength of schedule if you add up the win totals of all of the teams that they're playing. And Josh McDaniels hasn't had much success when Tom Brady hasn't been his quarterback and when Bill Belichick hasn't been overseeing him. Like, he could do well, but it wouldn't be surprising if we saw the Raiders struggle. And a number of the Raiders are also priced, in my opinion, pretty aggressively.
Do you think the fact that they're facing such a tough schedule means that we might get some fantasy goodness out of them because they might be in higher scoring games and they're going to be trying to catch up in those games?
Maybe they are in games that are expected to have shootouts. You know, if you look at the totals, at the Super Sportsbook, they have a lot of like 50-point games that they are participating in with their overs unders. That said, they're facing a lot of tough defenses too. So like they could be in shootouts, but I don't know. Like Josh McDaniels, like it wouldn't be surprising like come week 8 to be like, oh man, who could have foreseen that the Raiders would just be a total trash organization at this point of the season? It's like, well, you know, you did hire Josh McDaniels.
That's fair. Fitz, who are your offenses that you think could disappoint us after having hype this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders are one for sure, and part of it for me is that their offensive line is just so terrifying. But the thing is, like, we're not sinking a lot of fantasy draft capital into Raiders necessarily. Like Davante Adams, yes. You know, maybe we've given Derek Carr a little bump. Darren Waller's a top 5 tight end. But the team that I think that is even more terrifying with their offensive line, because like we're investing a lot of draft capital into these guys, the Steelers. Najee Harris, consensus first round pick. Deontay Johnson, consensus top 20 receiver. Now everyone's getting really excited about George Pickens. And, you know, there's some Chase Claypool truthers out there too. Like, there are going to be a lot of high picks on that team. And like, this is just, oh man, that offensive line is so horrible. I have no idea why they drafted Kenny Pickett instead of a tackle. Like a guy who wouldn't have been drafted like after his first 4 years of college, and then comes back and has like this, you know, 5th year where he breaks out and all of a sudden he's a first round pick. Like, just take a tackle. Like, fix your offense, man. I mean, this offensive line is just tragic.
Let's wrap it up there, fellas. Another awesome episode chock full of quality information and analysis. Thank you both for joining me, and thank you, the fans, for listening. For Fitz and Freedman, I'm Ryan Wormley. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.